All right. Hey, everybody. Good evening. So, yeah, before you know it, now we're on our last P. We're on promotions. So this is kind of the end of the marketing process. Um, so yeah, starting next week, we're going to be doing something a little different, and then we're going to go right into presentations. So I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the lecture. So let's hop right into it because, as you might expect, promotions, advertising, that's a big topic. We're going to kind of scratch the surface today. But kind of each of the topics on some of these slides could be a whole course, in particular, all the digital advertising stuff. So what I have here is a tablet here. It's got some Chinese characters on it. Does anyone who knows Chinese characters, traditional characters, I guess the non-simplified ones, could anyone translate what's on this tablet? Does anyone have a sense? Shohui says, I see Kung Fu. All right. Different people see different things in the tablet. It's not Kung Fu though. Yeah, so these are Chinese characters. So what we have here is an advertisement, probably the earliest known print advertisement. It's dated to around 1000 AD, so about 1000 years old. And it's advertising this guy, Jinan Liu, his needle shops, extremely high quality product, and its ease of use. So advertising's been around for a while. And what is advertising? We'll start with the definition as usual, right? So advertising is any paid form of non-personal presentation and promotion of ideas, goods, or services by an identified sponsor, right? So advertising is really big business. We have a lot of spending on advertisements globally, within Canada, and within large multinationals like Procter & Gamble, who we've kind of seen time and time again, and with all their products, their laundry detergents, they spend $10 billion a year alone on advertising. Right? It's one part of what we call managing marketing communications. So when we think about managing communication, as always, everything's a process. So promotions are a process too. So when we're picking our marketing communications, we kind of make a few different decisions here. So we start out with some strategic decisions, right? We want to determine what are the objectives of this communication plan that I'm laying out, and who is my target audience. Now, part two, you should probably have identified earlier on when you were doing your segmentation. So we're not going to talk about part two today. Once you've kind of picked your objectives though, then you go down to execution, right? So you design your message. How are you going to communicate whatever this objective is to your target audience? And then you'll choose the media, in particular, so it can be TV, radio, print, or online, and the promotional mix. So what's the promotional mix? We don't just advertise. We also do a lot of other stuff to promote and communicate our products' attributes or benefits, right? Advertising is one part of it, but we also have these four other things, which I asked you guys to read up on, and which we'll talk about towards the end of the lecture when we talk about that case I asked you about with the BMW iX. All right, so you choose your media and you choose your promotional mix. And then after that, you determine your budget, and then you, in stage 6, see, okay, did my advertising or did my communications actually work to do whatever it is I was trying to do, whatever objective I was trying to achieve, right? So let's start at the beginning. Yeah, communication objectives. Right? We're typically being encouraged to buy or engage with a company's products. Yeah, that's always the overarching objective, but how does it do that specifically? Well, at a minimum, it should get your attention, right? A piece of communication, to actually communicate something, you need to be aware of it. So getting awareness is kind of a given, right? But once you have the attention of your target audience, what else should this piece of communication actually do? So let's look at an ad here. Another old ad, not quite as old as the first one. It says, "Stop and think, you want the best. New era dental floss," right? So when we look at this ad, we can see what? We see a photo. What else do we see? What are all these words describing? Yeah, the product itself, how good it is, its novelty, the price. So features of the product, right? Attributes of the products and benefits of the products. Yeah, when we look here, it's a new kind of floss. It's got a new and original stylish package. Everything's an improvement in every way. It's the highest grade. So a lot of quality emphasis, but a description of the product, right? So what's the purpose of this advertisement? We would probably think this is to inform us about features of the product, right? And benefits of the product. All right, so let's take a look at another ad. All right, so here's an ad, and I've blanked out a little thing in the bottom right corner, which is the product. Does anyone have an idea what this is an advertisement for? We see a kiwi and it's got no seeds. Seedless kiwis, it's a good guess. Seed remover, face wash. Yeah, it's kind of gross, but yeah, possibly. Air freshener. Yeah, maybe something fruity. Blackhead remover. Yeah. All right. Let's move on then. So this is actually also floss. Yeah. So this is a floss ad as well. Right. So the other ad, we can kind of say, yeah, floss for people. The other ad, we can kind of say its purpose was to inform, right? This thing, it's not meant to inform. What is it doing? Why would Colgate pay money for this, to show this to us? Why don't they have like a big block of text about how great their floss is? It's got you thinking. It engages the consumer. Yeah, it invokes some thought. It catches your attention, right? Yeah, agreed. So it kind of, compared to this one is much catchier. It makes you think a lot more. You kind of stop and look at it. So it kind of reminds you, you already know what floss does, but it kind of grabs your attention, right? So let me ask you guys, why would Colgate, so the purchaser of this advertisement, and New Era, the other floss, advertise so differently? Why are these two floss ads so different? Right, so before it was novel, so they needed to explain the benefits and attributes. Now it's a staple. Everyone knows what floss does. So if you're advertising for floss, all you need to do is just remind people, hey, here's a brand of floss, grab their attention, make sure you're in their consideration set. So we've kind of seen two ads, one that was designed to sort of inform. This one's kind of designed to remind you, right? Yeah, a unique ad stands out. Standing out is important. We'll come back to that. Right, so it's not just about floss, right? We saw this trend back in our second lecture. When you're kind of evolving this industry, this product category from sort of a new product to a more mature product, you have this evolution from more informative to less informative advertising, right? So we kind of see a few objectives here from these ads, and the inform and persuade are kind of the two classic advertising objectives, right? You either want to inform people about the product, you want to make them aware of the attributes and the benefits, or you want to persuade them to buy the product, convince them that it's better. Remind might be new to some of you or all of you. Remind is kind of bringing it to the front of your mind. You already know everything about it. This might already be your preferred brand, but for some products, you just need to be reminded, okay, I should actually floss, right? I should buy this, right? So a single ad can serve multiple objectives, right? The new era dental floss, it both informs and it's trying to persuade by convincing you that it's better than everything else out there, right? So there's kind of further ways you can break down what the communication objective might be, right? So informative advertising, you can see we have all these different potential objectives, right? Communicate customer value, tell the market about a new product, like what we saw, and explain how the product works. And that's true for the other categories as well, right? So we have inform and its subcategories. For persuasion, right? You may have different objectives in your persuasive campaign, build brand preference, right? So just kind of like building your sort of brand equity in consumers' mind. You might encourage switching to your brand, changing their perception of your value, persuading them to buy now as opposed to buy later, or convincing customers to tell others about the brand, right? Stimulate some word of mouth information transfer. And then finally, for reminder advertising, we have multiple objectives here. Maintaining customer relationships, reminding where to buy, reminding that you might need the product immediately or in the near future, right? So the reminder advertising definitely has more of an emphasis on existing customers, right? So your objective with reminder advertising will typically focus on something to do with maintaining existing relationships or inducing engagement with existing customers. So when I say that, kind of promotions can be thought of as communications, right? The title of this lecture is communications, not promotions. So you can kind of think of it as a problem of communicating something from a sender to a receiver, right? So the sender is basically encoding some information as a message, right? But that message is sometimes noisy, yeah? So that when the receiver receives it, there's sometimes a bit of decoding that they have to do before they kind of understand what it is you're trying to say, right? So in this communication process, the sender is typically the firm kind of buying the advertisement, paying for the advertisement. Encoding is the process of sort of putting this objective into symbolic form, into this set of symbols that the sender transmits. And then the receiver kind of assigns meaning to those symbols based on their, potentially their own culture, context, frame of mind, and kind of they might be subject to noise in different way, right? So like, for instance, the kiwi, right? Before we showed the Colgate part in the bottom right corner, we didn't really know what it was about. Once we kind of understood, because I revealed it, then it became clear this was like kind of a clever ad. But how the receiver assigns meaning to the symbols, sometimes, it's a way to generate intrigue by not making it totally obvious, but it can also introduce some noise. So let's take a look at some ads. All right, here's the first one. The bottom right, we can see this is a McDonald's ad, and an ad for what? Yeah, we assume this means free Wi-Fi. McDonald's got the Wi-Fi symbol. And what about this one? Beach vibes. Yeah, Coke is for summertime, right? So it's summer, relax, have a Coke. So advertisement on the left, what can we say the marketing objective of the three objectives, the three broad categories? What do you guys think? Inform, persuade, or remind? Yeah, definitely. So inform feels like they're telling us there's free Wi-Fi. Remind if we already know, right? So it'll depend on kind of who's decoding the message, what communication they take, right? So yeah, inform and remind. And then on the right, the Coca-Cola one. Seeing some remind and some persuade. So yeah, again, it'll kind of depend on your target market, right? So remind people who already feel like a cold Coke in the summer is the best thing that they want. For those who don't think that, you might think that this is kind of like trying to persuade them. It's probably not doing a great job. It's not doing anything to highlight that Coke is somehow going to be better during the summer, right? Here's a fun one. So here we have looks like a little cat jumping over a mountain. What's going on here? Can anyone interpret? Puma and Adidas. So Puma and Adidas are the two brands on display here. I've seen a lot of collaboration. Do you feel like this is a collaboration that Adidas is enjoying? Yeah, maybe Puma saying it's better than Adidas, right? Jumping over the Adidas logo. And then in the bottom right, we see Prevail 6, the jump of Puma, right? So nothing there about Adidas. So this definitely feels like a persuade objective, right? And in this case, persuade objective, we have Puma and Adidas. So I actually think this is not a legit ad, not a legit ad. I think someone photoshopped this, just because you're not allowed to use your competitors' kind of trademarked logos and stuff in your own advertising. You can use something that looks kind of close, but this is like an exact copy of the Adidas logo. So this is probably photoshopped. But the idea here is it kind of remains. And we do see ads where, you'll have like a Pepsi versus like a generic red soda. We all know what that is, right? Or we'll have Burger King versus like a clown, right? We know who that is. Typically, when you have persuasive advertisements like that, you see kind of a smaller firm punching up against a larger firm. Why? You're trying to persuade consumers to switch, right? And if you're not the dominant firm, if you're the small firm, that makes sense, right? There's a lot more consumers going for your competitor compared to your brand. So persuasive advertisement, you often see it when you're a small firm. That's kind of often when it makes sense. If you're a big firm, why would you bother persuading, right? You already have most of the market, or you already have a dominant market share. Why would you kind of like try to take the small amount that one of your smaller competitors has? So comparative advertising, generally considered a form of persuasive advertising. The aim is to encourage brand switching. And like I said, usually involves a lower market share brand comparing itself to a higher market share brand, right? So it's not always the case that you have a lower market share punching up to a higher market share. Here's Audi. They have an ad. Audi is a reasonable market share in the US. They say your move, BMW. That's totally fine. They're not showing any of BMW's trademarked terms or logos. BMW hits back with an ad that says checkmate. That's a lot bigger. We have two kind of equally sized companies sort of having a fun little war on these advertising billboards. And some people kind of photoshopped a continuation of that war. The next two things are not real, but I think it's the Audi R8 and then the BMW Formula One car. But we kind of see that the drawback for comparative advertising, if you're kind of equally sized, potentially it's just inviting a costly advertising war, right? You're trying to take their customers, they're trying to take yours. This case kind of generated positive buzz. In general, you can't really rely on that. Yeah. Jan says, did Puma collab? No, so I'm thinking that was a photoshopped ad. That was a fake ad. made by a Puma fan. Puma's not allowed to use the Adidas logo. Yeah. Okay. So those are some of our advertising objectives. That's kind of our phase one, right? So let's wrap things up with watching some YouTube videos, just because, you know, it's the advertising lecture. So let me make sure you guys can hear my sound. All right, if you're wearing headphones, let me know if this is too loud. How's that for everyone? Good, all right.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Oh, hello, Barney.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Bonjour.
Hi. How you doing there? Yellow. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yo, yo. Hello. 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 Hello.
All right. So what's in an ad for? And what's the objective? iPhone, the original iPhone. Yeah, iPhone 1, I guess. And the objective, inform, persuade, remind. Yeah, definitely inform, right? What information is being conveyed? Yeah, the product. It's a new product. Jan says it's a phone. Yeah, perfect. It doesn't look like a phone, but it's a phone, right? New way to talk, right? And maybe connection as well, right? Maybe some secondary needs, right? You use this to connect with people, but it's a new product. It's a phone. It's an Apple phone. All right, perfect. Let's look at this next one here. All right, very adorable. Yeah, so wholesome. Good. So let's think about that ad. We know it's for Coke. The objective. Probably remind. Yeah, that one kind of feels almost like what else could it be doing, right? Inform, persuade. It's not really providing any information. It's not trying to persuade. It's just reminding, you know. Coke is for the holidays. Somehow Coke is for every season of the year. How did they manage that? Awesome. So good. We have some other like links on this slide if you just feel like taking a look at some videos. It's persuading Jan emotionally. Awesome. Coke would be happy to hear that. All right, enough. Okay. Before we move on from objectives, we've exclusively talked about external objectives: inform, persuade, or remind your customers. Briefly, we also have internal marketing, right? Where we market to our own staff and employees to get them to act in the interests of the firm. So our internal marketing objective is just that, right? Incentivize your employees to act in the company's interest, consistently deliver a satisfying customer experience. We basically already talked about how companies tend to do that, but that's the objective, right? All right, so the next slide is kind of a new way of how we think about communications in marketing. over the past, say, 20 years compared to like the very traditional long-standing just inform, persuade, or remind. So what we have here, apologies that it's not the best quality, but we have what's called the marketing and sales funnel. So this might look kind of familiar. It looks kind of familiar because it should remind you of the buyer's decision process. We move from awareness to information search to consideration and evaluation. Then we have this intent and commitment, which doesn't appear in the decision process. And then we have purchase. And then we have post-purchase behavior, right? What's different here? Well, we have colors, and we also have what looks like an inverted pyramid. So our inverted pyramid, what is this representing? It's kind of representing that at the top of the funnel, this is kind of where we have potentially the most consumers. Everyone is a potential target for awareness. But at each stage, we're going to kind of lose some people, right? Not everyone who's aware is going to express interest and search for information. Not everyone who searches for information is going to consider. And not everyone who considers is going to convert and purchase. And at the very end, not everyone who purchases is going to come back and stay loyal to the brand, right? We're kind of losing people at each stage. So the funnel, it kind of describes the customer's journey through the buying process, right? Now, the pyramid shape is suspicious. That's why I said inverted pyramid. It's totally different. In the age of digital marketing, where we can monitor and track our marketing and interactions with customers, the marketing and sales funnel, it's kind of a powerful tool for businesses. One way that we use it is we set very granular marketing objectives that are all about moving people through the funnel, right? So our objective might be to induce awareness, or our objective might be of all the people we think are aware, we want to get them to search for information, right? Or of all the people who are considering the product, we want to convert them into purchasers, right? So we have kind of objectives where we're trying to move people through the funnel. So we can kind of think of these objectives for two different types of consumer. Ones that we're trying to attract, so new buyers, where we're trying to do things like boost engagement or increase conversions. What's a conversion? Conversion, typically thinking about like a purchase, right? So converting them from potential buyer to an actual buyer, right? So we have boosting engagement. That could be through increasing brand awareness or website visits, right? And kind of the success of your campaign depends on your chosen key performance indicator, or KPI, right? So you'll often have KPIs in the engagement or awareness stage, like how many people visited your website, right? So you're doing an advertising campaign, you're just trying to boost awareness. If people even just see the ad, or if they come to the website, that's your performance indicator. That's what you're trying to do. Very granular thing that you're trying to boost, as opposed to the more vague but sort of strategic objectives of inform, persuade, remind. This one has very kind of clear-cut objectives. And if you do kind of go into marketing after undergrad, these are typically the kind of objectives that you would be targeting in whatever role you're in, right? Cool. Your next type of objective targets your loyal customers, so your repeat customers, right? So attraction was about new customers, retention is about recurring customers. One tool, because recurring customers just occur at the very bottom of the sales funnel, right? They're all the way down there, loyalty and advocacy. We kind of have a different way of conceptualizing objectives for them, as opposed to moving people through the funnel. Here, we're trying to kind of retain people. What does that mean? Well, what we have here is what's called a recurring revenue waterfall. And this is a fairly common chart that you'll see organizations develop. You have your starting revenue, right? 100%, that's what you have this year from your loyal customers. Net retention is how much revenue you're generating from that same group of customers after a year's time, let's say, or after a quarter's time, right? So starting and then ending, right? Starting with kind of with that same group of customers. And along the way, what we have are different contributors to create that net effect of going from 100 to 111. So churn, -9%. So churn is you're losing people, right? They're churning out. They're no longer staying with your company, right? So your -9%, that would be a loss of customers. Downsell, of the customers you have, how many of them are downgrading, right? They're going from YouTube Premium to YouTube Free, right? Or they're going from a higher tier service to a lower tier, or they're just buying less stuff. That's downsell. Upsell is the flip side of that. How many of your customers are upgrading? Cross-sell, how many of your customers are kind of buying additional products in your sort of general market offering, right? When you add up these kind of different contributions, you get this net change from 100 to 111. So each of these 4 different categories kind of induces a different objective, right? You might want to reduce churn, right? So how do I prevent people, not prevent, but how do I incentivize people not to leave? How do I incentivize people not to downgrade? How do I incentivize people to actually upgrade? Or how do I incentivize my loyal customers to buy different products that I offer, right? Good. So these are kind of our more modern data-driven marketing objectives, which are feasible for us to analyze because we now can track consumers much more closely than before. Are there any questions about this waterfall? All right, cool. So then let's move on to the next step in our kind of managing communications process. So we talked about determining objectives, and I mentioned that we're not really going to talk about target audience because we kind of covered that in the STP section, right? We should already know that at this point in the overall marketing process. Next thing, execution, right? Design a message, choose the medium, and then decide how much we want to spend and where we're going to spend that money, right? So design a message. Let's take a look. Broadly speaking, you can kind of think of a few different types of messages that you might want to convey, right? When you're encoding your message. And you can think of them as appealing to people on a few different levels, right? One, a rational level, where you're describing product characteristics and the value proposition, right? That's what we see with this nice old magazine ad for a fishing boat, right? For the man who has everything but the best fishing boat ever built, there's this fishing boat, the Evinrude, right? So rational, product characteristics, value proposition. Moral, that's saying this is kind of the right thing to do to engage with this product, right? Here we have a nice little counterpoint to the first ad for the Salvation Army, right? Which is, that charitable organization you can donate to. But we see this a lot where people kind of loop in their product or their brands into some kind of cause, right? Some kind of good cause, right? Could be like a YouTube channel supporting, a particular charity. Could be a company partnering with a charity to sort of, plant a tree for every pair of shoes it sells. But the idea is that you're kind of creating this moral obligation for your customers. And the last message type is definitely the most common and is kind of more of a catch-all, right? An emotional message, right? You're trying to induce some kind of feeling, right? Which I feel like a lot of the ads that we've seen thus far have kind of been trying to create an emotional connection as well. So one of the issues with advertising these days is just how many of them there are and how many of them your consumers can be expected to see, right? So a few stats, and these are a little bit out of date, so I would expect they would have gone up by now. But consumers are exposed to a ton of ads every day, 3,000 to 5,000. Consumers click barely any of the online ads they see. And overall, kind of a cluttered advertising environment, so just too many ads, undermines consumer attention and engagement with advertisements. It also leads to consumer irritation and just avoiding ads in general. So yeah, 20% ad blocker rate. So that should be from 2015. So if someone wants to find a more recent statistic, I'd be happy for you guys to Google that and get back to me in chat. But the idea is like, you're not advertising in a vacuum, right? If you increase your advertisements, others may increase their advertisements as well. And kind of the net results of being in this equilibrium where there's just so many ads is that every ad is less effective, right? So it's a major challenge to get through the clutter. So how do you do it? Let's take a look at one ad that managed it.
The finer things in life. Happily, some are affordable, like Grey Poupon Dijon mustard. Grey Poupon is so fine, it's even made with white wine. Its original French Dijon recipe adds distinctive flavor to beef, pork, and poultry, salad dressing and sauces, and of course, sandwiches. So enjoy one of life's finer pleasures.
Pardon me, would you have any Grey Poupon? But of course.
Grey Poupon, one of life's finer pleasures.
All right, so, okay, very nice. 41.3% of Canadians use ad blockers. Thanks, Puya. Canadians in kind of the prime demographic, 16 to 64. All right, so we just saw an ad from, I believe, the 80s for a mustard called Grey Poupon. That ad might look familiar to some of you because it's been parodied a lot of times. So what about that ad kind of works? It's hard to say, right? It's definitely funny. It's definitely fun to watch. Could they have predicted that this ad would be kind of, I mean, we didn't have things going viral in the 80s, but that it would be so popular? Probably not. So there's really no template. Success really depends on your creativity and imagination in terms of an ad that can really sort of break out and go viral. Here we have, a brand whose only real equity comes from a campy TV spot made 30 years ago, Grey Poupon. So Grey Poupon's still around. I think you can still buy it, largely on the strength of this commercial, right? So go viral is one way of breaking through the clutter, but how do we do that? Difficult to do. Some people will tell you they know how to do it. Probably not super reliable though. So go viral is one option, but it's too unreliable. So let's look at some other options.
First, your new car. BMW. Agile 5 forward gears, all points radar. Self-destruct system, and naturally, all the usual refinements. Now, this I'm particularly proud of. Behind the headlights, Stinger missiles.
Excellent. Just the thing for unwinding after a rough day at the office.
Need I remind you, 007, that you have a license to kill, not to break the traffic laws.
I wouldn't think of it.
Good.
All right, very nice. So Angelica kind of beat me to the punch. It's not an advertisement, it's product placement, which is kind of an advertisement, right? We are not seeing an advertisement for BMW's Z3, which was new at the time of GoldenEye, which is this particular movie. We're seeing kind of the product worked into the movie, right? A movie where you're paying very close attention to what's going on, right? Because you're at the movies, right? There's kind of no distractions there. So this technique of cutting through the clutter by placing the product in the movie has kind of exploded in popularity. We see tons of product placement. it was pioneered by these guys, Madison and Vine, as kind of this sort of two-part innovation that they did. So the very bottom one, that's our product placement. So branded entertainment, integrating the brand or the product into some other form of entertainment, right? Like a movie. Okay. Advertainment is sort of maybe a more procedural way of trying to go viral. So design advertisements that are so entertaining, so useful, or so engaging that consumers actually want to watch them, right? So you can kind of think like some of Red Bull's sort of competitions that they sponsor blur the line between advertising and entertainment, right? The whole things feel like a big ad for Red Bull, but there's, you know, some interesting stuff going on. So you might want to just watch it anyway, right? But in general, branded entertainment product placement is huge. It's only getting bigger. You know, with kind of advancement in technology, you can sort of digitally add in, or there's kind of the potential to digitally add in product placement, depending on who's watching your TV show. So not everyone would see the same product placement, which is something that advertisers are very excited about, as a way of kind of cutting through this advertising clutter. Right. So let's think about another way of doing it. Celebrity endorsements, right? This feels somewhat similar to product placement in the sense that kind of you're interested in them for other reasons. And so they happen to be having this product. So you pay attention to the product, right? So here we have some Nike shoes, the LeBron 12. Who's endorsed them? It's LeBron James. That makes sense. Shoes have his name on them, right? Here's, at the time of kind of Obamacare being rolled out in the US, right? This sort of option for people to self-insure through these insurance exchanges. You have this healthcare.gov, and they were advertising that, right? And they wanted to make sure that people were aware of this service so that they would sign up for the health insurance exchanges. So they're like, okay, we need some endorsements in order to basically stimulate interest, right? Stimulate awareness. Who do you think would kind of make sense as a celebrity to endorse the US government's healthcare enrollment website? Can you think of any kind of natural picks there? President, yeah, so Obama at the time, definitely, and I think he definitely did endorse it, you know, when he gave his speeches, which makes sense because he spearheaded it. Dolly Parton. Okay, it's an interesting one. The only one that comes to mind, just because she's a celebrity, maybe people will trust, but she's old enough. I think she's old enough to qualify for Medicare. So she doesn't need to care about healthcare.gov. Olivia Rodrigo. All right, I don't know any of these people. So I'm just gonna skip to the punchline. Anthony Fauci, okay, there's a good one, right? Like the, you know, a high up doctor, someone maybe that people trust. But it's LeBron. LeBron's the one they chose. So the shoe makes sense, but healthcare.gov, maybe it also makes sense, right? LeBron's not a doctor. He's not an expert on insurance. Jan says he is a greatest of all time, right? Why would that matter for, you know, being a good celebrity endorsement? Well, for him, it's about familiarity and the level of success and perhaps their likability and trustworthiness, right? So expertise is only one part of the puzzle. Just pick someone who grabs attention, and that can be good enough, right? So we can kind of see this also in negative ways. Sometimes you have a celebrity who draws a lot of negative attention to themselves, right? They do something, you know, that's kind of upsetting. I think the example that springs to mind is Charlie Sheen when he was kind of going on his bender, the guy from 2.5 Men. He still got a lot of endorsements. He got more endorsements because he was in the news. People were paying attention to him, right? When he was doing all of his winning. It says it's crazy how celebrity endorsements work, even though they're usually paid to do it and they don't care about the product. Yeah. So when you think about how, like, why is this effective? Well, the objective here is what? It's to inform. It's to persuade people to use it, right? In terms of persuasion, this doesn't feel like it would do much. Yeah. Except insofar as, LeBron's endorsement, if people think that it's hard to get his endorsement, that he only endorses the best stuff, then, maybe it is kind of persuasive, right? Jan says Braun has a fairly clean image. Yeah, so he's kind of a trustworthy figure. But in general, like I was saying, you don't really need trustworthiness or even likability, as long as you are kind of visible. Sometimes that can be enough, right? Awesome. So let's break here before we kind of jump into the next and biggest section on kind of choosing your medium. So it's 5:56 right now, so we'll break until 6:06, and I'll stay in chat. All right, we're back. So let's keep going with our marketing process, or our communication process rather. So yeah, once we've picked our message, our communication objective, and we've kind of created our message in such a way as we're trying to kind of cut through the advertising clutter, the next thing we kind of need to think about, and probably the biggest thing, is the medium, right? So there's two dimensions to this choice. The first one summarized on the left, right? We can choose between advertising, personal selling, public relations, direct marketing, and sales promotion, right? These are all options to us. And then kind of, we can also think about the media type, right? So TV, movies, radio, print, or online and mobile, right? So we're choosing both our media, right? Our media type, and also our communications mix, right? How much of our budget do we want to be spending on each of these 5 different things on the left? How do you pick these things? How do you pick this mix? That is a great question that we don't have a ton of explanation for. Ideally, the way that you'd want to choose any particular thing is based on its marginal contribution to the KPI you're interested in, right? You know, I choose to advertise and I choose to do it online because, you know, dollar for dollar, that's going to lead to the biggest increase in awareness, which is what I'm focused on, for instance, right? That's something we'd like to be able to say. People have beliefs about that. People have some evidence and some anecdotal stuff, but it's far from comprehensive, okay? So in this course, I can't tell you how to pick your advertising mix. And I can't tell you how to pick your communications mix or kind of which particular media type you want to be using. I can kind of provide you with sort of the latest insights and some of the benefits of each one. But really, it's definitely something that's kind of at the forefront of research. So today, I'm going to focus on online and mobile while we're discussing advertising, because it's the newest and it's the things that we have the best data for, that we can actually measure the effectiveness of it, right? So we're going to talk about advertising first, and we're going to talk about exclusively online and mobile advertising, okay? We do have other advertising, right? TV, radio, and print. You know, just this year, 2021, paper was published in a top, academic marketing journal, trying to really quantify what's the effectiveness of TV advertising on sales. So we can talk a bit more about that, but the answer is not as effective as a lot of people think. So online, mobile, we can break it out into 4 different kinds of online advertising, starting with classifieds, search advertising, display advertising, and then email and push advertising. So classified advertising is old school online advertising. This is basically, you have classifieds in the back of a newspaper that say, you know, I'm looking for this kind of product or this kind of, employee, or, I'm looking to work in this kind of job or whatever, right? You have these very specific advertisements. And the first thing that happened when people went online in kind of the 90s and early 2000s was, let's replicate the classified experience online, right? So classified advertising are ads listed by private individuals or firms on a dedicated platform, right? And you can think about things like Kijiji and eBay. Yeah, exactly. Craigslist and Kijiji, perfect. So still common for a ton of products, used goods, used cars, even, some small businesses operate on Kijiji and eBay exclusively, eBay more so than Kijiji. Why would they do that? Well, you kind of have some advertising baked in. It's called classified advertising for a reason, right? You have all this information about your product that's kind of made available to people who are looking for it. And it's really cheap, right? If you are not moving a lot of products, you can save a lot on the fixed costs of, even setting up a website, or setting up a storefront, right? All you need to do is list ads on Kijiji or eBay. Right? And this is still an important category, right? So when we have this, I show you this graph on the right-hand side, it's to demonstrate that, you know, a lot of product is still moved through classified ads. This is the people's starting point when looking for used cars. A majority, you know, it's a minority majority, but it's the largest category of people start by looking online. And that means typically classified ad customers, right? You can see at the bottom, this is from a McKinsey survey of around 11,000 classified ad consumers, right? So lots of people looking on classifieds still for a lot of products. But even for kind of like a medium-sized firm or a semi-professional firm, you're not gonna operate through classified ads. So what other online options are available to you? So search advertising is one. These are ads that appear along with the algorithmic and organic results that are displayed on a search engine like Google or Yahoo, or whatever, right? So here's our French press ad results again from searching on Google. Everything in that top row of photos is a sponsored ad, right? So this is something that a company, in this case, probably Best Buy, has paid for me to see. What have they done? In the time between when I search on Google and my search results appear, you know, my profile, you know, whatever past information Google has on me, plus the fact that I just searched for a French press, is basically auctioned off in a fraction of a second to any interested buyer, like Best Buy, who wants to show me an ad, right? And Best Buy bids, in this case, they won. They're willing to pay Google the most to show me an ad. And so they show me these ads, right? So that's what's happening in the background. But if you set up search advertising yourself, it's much easier than that, right? You can go to sort of Google AdWords and set things up with a very minimum of fuss. You don't need to know what's going on in the background. You do need to set a threshold for how much you're willing to pay to show me these ads, but that's about it. So why would a company choose to show search advertising, right? Well, we can think targeting is easy, right? Google has all the information that I need as a firm to know if you're a good prospective customer or not. I don't need to collect that information. Google has all of it, right? So targeting is very easy. So if you want to come up with a sophisticated targeting campaign on a low budget, search advertising is a good option, right? You kind of have people who are guaranteed to be interested at that exact moment in your product, right? Alongside search advertising is the idea of search engine optimization, or SEO. This is kind of like the opposite side of the coin to search advertising. What you're trying to do here is increase the visibility of your website to users of a search engine, right? So basically, if you've successfully optimized with respect to Google's search algorithms, your ranking of your webpage will be boosted on the search result page. And we know from last lecture that moving up on the search result page results in a lot more clicks, right? So why would you do this as opposed to paying for an advertisement? Well, consumers have more trust, right? When you see this set of ads, or this set of search results rather, the ads are often things that people just skip over. Why? Because they don't trust them, right? I don't trust that the ad that's being shown to me is the best product. I somehow trust the organic result more, right? So you may want to invest in this SEO as opposed to actually doing search ads. Okay, that brings us to our third type of online advertising, display advertising. These are kind of one of the most common types of ad that we see. right? When we see a banner ad, when we see just plain text ads, when we see video ads, social media ads. Here we have on the right-hand side, this is Facebook's pitch to you as a firm saying, hey, here are all the ways we can show visitors to Facebook advertisements, right? These are all the different options that they can engage with your product, right? And this can be something that appears in either a web browser or in an app. That's kind of an advantage with respect to search ads, right? A lot of people don't search for things on their phone. They just go through an app. And with display ads, if you're partnered with the right app or with the right firm, they'll have an app and you can show it to, you can show your ads to consumers there. So you can show ads based on targeting and tracking. That's perfectly fine. Just like with search ads, you can design your campaign around, here I've been tracking this consumer. They look like the perfect person to buy my product. Let me bid on showing them an ad. That's targeting and tracking. Contextual is just, I visit a website, caranddriver.com. It's an automotive review website. Car companies are going to think maybe he's interested in buying a car, so they'll show me ads for their car. That's what's called a contextual ad, right? Showing me an ad related to kind of the content that I'm interacting with, right? The context. Benefit here is, once again, easy targeting, right? You don't need to collect the data. Someone else has collected the data. And so that kind of brings us to our last type of online advertising. We have email and push notifications. So email advertising, what's that? Those are notifications sent to your email address containing information. They're often focused on retention, but you do see a lot of other things as well, right? Email advertising is massive, right? Every website you go to, every account you make, you're typically automatically opted in to receive emails. You have to kind of explicitly say, no, I don't want to receive emails. If you don't opt out, you're going to start getting emails from this company, unless you choose to unsubscribe, right? Email advertising is typically perceived as having a good conversion rate though, right? These are people who have already engaged with the products in some way. They've already signaled some kind of interest. So they're already a good group of consumers for you to try to be promoting to. So we think, yeah, pretty good conversion rate, right? So here, kind of during, I think it was during last summer, 2020, when things kind of opened up again briefly. You could go to the movies for a few weeks. Cineplex started pushing emails hard, right? And this is one that I got, right? So come back to the movies, please. Push notifications are like email advertising, except they are completely in the mobile context, right? So if you have an ad, or if you have an app, and that app kind of like gives you a notification on your phone, your phone vibrates and you check your phone, you just received a push notification, right? So push notifications, you might think that, okay, I need to be a firm who already has an app that consumers have installed in order to send them push notifications, right? That's not completely true. If you are a firm and you have kind of an app and consumers have installed it, yes, you can indeed send them push notifications. And those might have a good conversion rate because, again, these are already a very interested group of consumers, right? But if you're a small business and say you have like an Instagram page or a Facebook page, then if you post something new on your page, or if you post something new on your Instagram, your consumers will receive a push notification, right? Potentially they'll see, okay, new, XYZ company has posted something new. right, has posted a new photo, is what you might see on Instagram, right? So if you already have a presence on one of these social media apps, it's basically effortless to get these push notifications going. All you need to do is post on your profile, right? And you'll see something pop up, right? Your consumers who have Instagram installed will see something pop up, unless they disable notifications for you, in which case, that's too bad. All right, so the last bit of our discussion about this online advertising world is the idea of lead magnets. So if you've ever looked at Toronto real estate, you'll probably have interacted with a lead magnet that looks something like this, right? So here we have an advertising for something called the Berkshire Residences. It's boutique luxury in South Oakville by the lake. Sounds nice. Not a lot of information, nothing about really like floor plans, nothing about specific pricing, nothing about when it's gonna be built, right? But we do have a lot of prompts to interact more. Book your one-on-one appointment, schedule time with me. Yeah, off-centered button. I didn't notice that, but it's not great. Especially given what they're trying to show here. When you kind of click on any of these buttons, you will be prompted to enter your email address, right? And then you will receive kind of a relentless stream of communications from these companies, right? You'll receive communications, hey, like we're selling more stuff, like here's what the units look like. You'll basically receive a lot of email notifications, right? So this is a lead magnet. It's a kind of a piece of information given in exchange for contact information. So Berkshire will only give you information on proposed layouts of the apartment units and proposed pricing and all the things that you really want to know. They'll only give you that if you give them your email, right? So this kind of works in conjunction with an email or push marketing campaign. The benefit here is that, this kind of guarantees that you'll have interested people that you're sending email notifications to. So that's good. So that's kind of a benefit of lead magnets to generate your email list. You might think, well, with a lead magnet, like, why do we do that? Wouldn't it be better to just provide all the information about the apartment or whatever upfront on the website? Just show people the information, right? Then if they're interested, they can subscribe. They can subscribe with their email and see updates, right? So why create this barrier to the information? Well, in this case, it is kind of this feeling like, you need to give something in order to get something. You need to give me your email in order to get the information. But also, Berkshire only wants serious people to be getting its emails, right? They only want people who are really potential buyers. Only someone for whom this is kind of like a big enough deal is going to be willing to say, okay, you can have my email address, give me the information, right? By creating a barrier, you kind of filter out some people that you wouldn't really want anyway, right? People who wouldn't want to buy something from this company. All right, so that was a small part of advertising, right? That was just online advertising, right? So you can see, like, yeah, you could definitely have a whole course on just choosing your digital advertising mix. We have kind of like not too much time, but hopefully you guys got a good sense of what that process consists of and the different options available. So now let's kind of run through the other 4 options, and then we'll talk about our BMW case. So let's talk sales promotion. So sales promotion versus advertising. So advertising, like we said, is a paid form of non-personal presentation and promotion of the product, right? Trying to move people through the purchase process by describing maybe reasons to buy. And you can do it in a ton of ways, right? Build awareness, persuade. Whereas sales promotion are typically short-term incentives to encourage purchases, right? Generate purchase behavior by offering incentives to buy, right? So a sales promotion will typically look like, it can look like a coupon, right? It can look like a price discount. There's basically two types of sales promotion. Pull promotion is directed at users, okay? By users, we mean kind of like final consumers. So we're saying, hey, final consumer, here's a coupon, here's a buy one, get one free, here's an in-store demonstration, you know, that you get a coupon at the end of. The alternative is what's called push promotions, which are directed to your resellers or your retailers, right? So instead of going directly to the consumer, let's think about maybe a grocery store context. Instead of, you know, printing a flyer or offering on your website a coupon, what you do is you go to Sobeys or Longo's or whatever, and you tell them, listen, if you promote my product, if you give it better shelf space, we'll give you a discount, right? So I'm kind of pushing the product from the top down, like, you know, you guys, Longo's, take more of my product, right? Discounts in exchange for feature advertising, shelf price reductions, you know, payments, even, yeah, direct payments can happen. These two things can work together. But yeah, in general, you know, you do see a lot more pull promotion. That's definitely a lot more visible than push promotion. And that's it for sales promotion. So next, we'll talk personal selling. What's that? Typically, that means personal customer interactions by the firm's sales force for the purpose of making sales and building customer relationships, right? So this feels like a very costly way of doing your marketing communication, right? It's very one-on-one. You know, you have to pay, you can't really reach a ton of consumers at the same time, right? But many firms still do it, right? In fact, I think salesperson is probably the biggest single job category in North America. And I'm not just talking about retail salespeople. I'm also talking about like B2B salespeople, right? So people who, you know, are trying to sell, say, like office furniture to businesses that need office furniture, right? Typically a lot of salespeople in an industry like that. So if service is a key part of the market offering, pre and post purchase, when customers have very different needs or valuations, and for more expensive products, typically you'll see personal selling, right? So auto dealerships are a place where we see a huge amount of personal selling. You know, we also see advertising, but once you're in the dealership, you know, a salesperson will kind of start working on you, right? You know, TVs, big one-time purchases, this is often where you'll see personal selling. All right, second to last, we have public relations. Okay, so what are public relations? Pura says dealerships and car sellers are now turning to online car purchases. Yeah, definitely there's a big shift in this industry. It kind of operates still in kind of like the old school way, but allowing people to kind of do their comparison shopping online, allowing people to just order their car online and then just pick it up, bypass the whole dealership experience is definitely more common these days, but mostly for new cars still, right? So for new cars, for used cars, I think, you know, you can do a lot of price comparison and price shopping, but it's still quite challenging. Not challenging, like there are services that allow you to buy a used car online. I think the level of trust is not really there yet. Yeah, so Fira says like there's kind of a a hassle cost, right? People don't want to deal with salespeople and negotiate prices. Yeah, so if the salespeople don't seem to be operating in your interest, it definitely feels painful to interact with them. So public relations involves kind of building good relations with all the different kind of interested groups who interact with your company's products, the various publics, to obtain favorable publicity, build up a good corporate image, handle or head off things like rumors or stories or events, right? So press relations, product publicity, lobbying. So, here we have this company Qualcomm. Qualcomm makes chips for phones. They also kind of make various network equipment. And here they have a blog about how 5G latency improves your mobile experiences, right? So this is an informative piece about 5G and all of its benefits, right? But it's something that's paid for by Qualcomm. It's hosted on Qualcomm's website. It's written by a Qualcomm employee, right? So this doesn't necessarily feel like an advertisement. It's just describing the benefits of a new technology, but Qualcomm is kind of intimately involved with the rollout of that technology, right? So by kind of framing this as a sort of neutral news release, they can maybe bypass people's reluctance to sort of engage with an advertisement and kind of help their product along that way, right? And then here we have kind of a press release. Microsoft launches initiative to help 25 million people worldwide acquire digital skills needed in a COVID economy, right? So that seems nice. So this is definitely something to obtain favorable publicity. This gives them, a strong kind of image, sort of an ethical corporate citizen. What else does it do? It potentially locks 25 million more people into the Microsoft ecosystem, as opposed to say the Apple or an Android ecosystem. But that's not what they're focusing on, right? So that's public relations. News releases, neutrally framed information, basically make it so that the media or various kind of reviewers are kind of doing your advertising for you. Lastly, we have direct marketing, and I'll highlight this briefly. So a marketing channel without intermediaries, something where the consumers can kind of interact directly with your brand on an individual basis. And this is kind of something that's rapidly growing and rapidly evolving, right? In sort of old school marketing, you'd kind of roll this into sort of personal selling, right? Face-to-face selling. But now you have brands basically interacting directly with customers through social media apps, which can work very well. Like there's some brands that are sort of famous for having very interesting Twitter accounts, like Wendy's, for instance, or it can just kind of fall on its face and no one really pays attention. So it's definitely evolving and growing. Not really sure what the recipe for success is here. Authenticity seems to be important. But other than that, not quite sure. So wouldn't the social media company be the intermediary? That's a great point. I mean, they are the platform that enables the direct interaction, but in the same way that like when you have a platform like Uber, you still have direct interaction between like the driver and the rider. Right here, you have Wendy's or whoever kind of directly interacting with people on Twitter, right? So Twitter allows them to directly interact, right? All right, so we're going to have a bit of a longer discussion today for the survey because I want to give people who haven't had a chance to speak up this semester an opportunity to sort of provide some comments about what they think. So I'll do my usual thing. I'll call on a few people who haven't had a chance to speak yet. But I would encourage you, if you haven't spoken yet this semester and I don't call your name, feel free to try to jump in. All right. So we have this survey result. We have a new all-electric SUV, the BMW iX. So it's a real product that's coming to market, but hasn't been released yet. So I asked you guys whether their marketing objectives would be best served by advertising, personal selling, sales promotion, public relations, or direct and digital marketing. I agree that the thing they're doing with the front grille for all their electric vehicles is not to my taste. But I mean, then again, when they started doing their big redesigns in the early 2000s, a lot of people didn't care for it either. They kind of like toned it down and then it got a lot better. So hopefully it evens out. Cool. So let's start with advertising, right? So there's kind of two, before I call on someone, there's kind of two things, two elements to this question, right? Like there's picking which element of this communication mix you want. And then there's also thinking about BMW's marketing objectives, right? And I kind of relied on you guys to look online and see like, okay, what might those objectives be, right? Inform, persuade, or remind. So let's start with advertising, kind of the second most popular one. So is Yamna here? Oh, I can see she is here in the call, but maybe AFK. Yamna, are you here? All right, no Yamna. Jan, I know, is here. Maybe I'm mispronouncing it. Jan Mirella Viado. Who's here?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Okay, yeah. Is it Jan or Jan?
It's Jen.
Jan. Okay, sorry. I've been calling you Jan this whole time. All right, so Jan, why did you choose advertising?
Well, this was like a very general kind of thing for me because I usually see like car advertisements like in general, just looking at like when I'm watching like a show or whatnot. And I was just saying like this works for me just because I see it often. And that's more of like a personal experience.
So it works for other kind of vehicles, and so why wouldn't it work for this one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, I agree. Like it's kind of tried and tested. So so let's see, Yumna's here and she's maybe typing something in. So in terms of advertising, right? We know that it can kind of fulfill three different objectives: inform, persuade, or remind. In this case, what do we kind of imagine BMW's main objective might be? And this is kind of open-ended. Jan, you can answer if you want, or anyone else who kind of answered advertising and wants to speak up. Yeah, Sabi.
So I guess one of their objectives is to innovate, make them stand out. So showing this new electric SUV achieves that.
Okay, so kind of making it stand out. And I guess that would be potentially an inform objective, right? Kind of showing people, but that when you say stand out, that kind of implies competitors in the background. So maybe more of a persuasion. Yeah, Robert.
Yeah, I would say persuade as well. Persuade, yeah, because there is lots of other luxury brands out there, and especially when people think about electric right now, the go-to is Tesla. So and when I usually see BMW commercials or other commercials for vehicles, they're always like voted Safety of the Year award, and like they're trying to persuade you with all the look how much better ours is. It's got Safety of the Year or stuff like that. So
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, car selling is an extremely competitive environment, right? Standing out and kind of like comparing yourself to others is definitely the way to succeed, it feels like. Do you ever, Robert, I guess while you're still here, do you ever see Tesla ads on TV?
oh
On
yeah,
this
no,
business?
I know, I don't, yeah, I
No, you
see
don't.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen one either. I'm kind of curious if they do advertise, and if they don't advertise, why are they not doing that? They have an SUV, I think, maybe Model X. Um, so why would it work from BMW? And why is it maybe like something that Tesla decided wouldn't work? Or would it work for Tesla?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. I don't have a good answer.
I
But
like as a quick shot in the dark, I would assume that they've just established themselves as like kind of the Kleenex of electric cars, where just when people think of it, they automatically think of Tesla right away. So they kind of establish themselves as the name already people think about. So
okay. Yeah, so that's a good answer. They're the default option. If you're the default, you don't need to advertise. Let's see, Elon Musk is being quoted here. We don't advertise, we let the market decide for themselves that we are the better product and let that mark. So yeah, just word of mouth. I mean, Elon Musk's words definitely speak to an old school understanding of advertisement where it's meant to kind of persuade or induce a sale. He does a lot of the advertising for Tesla himself, right? Like he's a very kind of flamboyant personality. People pay attention to what he's doing. He also has big press conferences, right? Where he kind of releases new models. I still remember the one where he released the Cybertruck. That was a fairly recent one. That might feel more like public relations, right? Apple does that too, trying to sort of imitate a tech product, but certainly they are relying on elements of the communication mix. Maybe they're just not relying on like TV ads, which is the traditional thing, right? All right, cool. Good discussion so far. So Yamna wrote advertising because BMW's marketing mix already focuses on aggressive advertising. So maybe that would help kind of create that continuous brand awareness. I think that's good to, if people are expecting to see BMW ads for this new car on TV, then you don't want to let them down, right? You want to show them the ads. So consumer expectations may play a role there. All right, so that's advertising. Let's move on to the most popular one, direct and digital marketing. So let's see, is Shantanu here? All right, no Shantanu. How about Ramesh? Like I saw Ramesh earlier. We do have Shantanu in call, but AFK. All right. So yeah, Kartik.
Yeah, I chose direct and digital marketing because like on Twitter, for example, I think BMW already has a presence there, and I was reading somewhere online that people were commenting about the iX model itself and like how they weren't happy with the design, and then there was a bit of back and forth of tweets from BMW side. So like there's a bit of conversation there too. So like I think because they like with social media, that's how you tend to know most things these days. But when you get to interact more with the company, I guess people would rather, choose digital marketing over like more of an advertising perspective, because then you get to like really ask questions and like express.
Yeah, and you feel like the benefit of consumers being able to ask questions and express themselves is that it makes the company feel like more real or more honest or something like that.
Yeah, because I think like you're like, I guess you can customize your design more. So like the fact that they take people's consumer preferences more into account than than a company that doesn't like, I guess like say like a Toyota would be more standard, but like for BMW, there's more like by each model, like things change more in terms of features, in terms of how they adapt with new technology.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a great point. The customizability is a big feature, and kind of, I guess, yeah, so that's awesome. Thanks, Kartik. We have a bunch more hands up, so I'll ask Fariha or Fatima.
Yes. Yeah, so I also chose the direct and digital marketing. I was kind of thinking more along the lines of kind of the price point and the kind of customers who would normally purchase that particular vehicle. So I think on the site describing it, there was something around like 90K or something was around approximately the price of it. So that's not something that everyone can afford or everyone would even consider buying because it's not within their budget. So direct and digital marketing will allow them to kind of target their marketing efforts towards the consumers who actually have the ability and the interest to purchase that vehicle.
Good. Okay. So yeah, you see kind of value in targeting people who are actually able to buy the car. Yeah, because this is kind of an experimental product, and you kind of want to pitch it to the people who are most likely to want it.
Yep.
Makes sense. All right. And Nelly?
I was actually thinking something similar to Faria. So from the reading, I understood that direct marketing is more specific to the consumer. So a luxurious all-electric SUV can be marketed to a very particular customer segment based on lifestyle. So like Faria said, someone that is more interested in luxury cars, it would be more beneficial to target specifically to them. Also because this marketing is more personalized and interactive, I think that customers would be taking this alternative more seriously and more into consideration rather than like the Tesla, because when you say an all-electric car, you think Tesla right away. So that would kind of be more of a serious option if it's more personalized and interactive to the customers. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I think you brought a great point that basically like communications isn't happening in a vacuum, right? Tesla is the default, like I think Robert was saying. So perhaps with direct and digital marketing, you can basically communicate the differences of your product more effectively, because you do have these kind of different things about it. Okay, very good. And then Xuanyun Lin.
Hi.
Hi.
So my point is mentioned from Natalie. So first, I think the need for electric car is not general. So the marketing should be more direct, target to specific customer or community. And I think the way for direct and digital marketing provide more efficiency portal to access the customer. And also the marketing survey should be more interactive and personalized. And so for this kind of products, which are new, expensive, and they have some alternative option provided. So the customer may have some concerns, so interactive consultants are really helpful. And I have another point is that throughout the digital platform, the function and image for the car could grab more attention to the customer. So I chose this option.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Xuanyun. So more attention grabbing. And then I think that something that's kind of come up is that you have all this customization, personalization, very expensive luxury product. BMW has a reputation for service, for kind of aftermarket and kind of during the buying of the car. Potentially you want to be kind of holding true to that brand reputation. Yeah, so we'll end off here with Firas, and then we'll move on to a different response.
So a lot of what I'm about to say is already mentioned, but I'm going to give it a specific spin because I do think it's very important to recognize that the current customers for BMW is not necessarily the same customers that are going to be interested in buying this vehicle. Meaning that targeting those specific consumers that might be interested means tapping into a market that BMW might have not been appealing to previously. And that means knowing exactly how that customer, first of all, looks like, what they do, and everything else, which is a pathway for using digital marketing as a potential apparatus for that cause, as well as the fact that BMW is a global brand. It's one of the most reputable ones as well. And so, meaning advertising might be effective if you really want to advertise BMW to, let's say, a lot of people within the US or Canada who speak the same language. Digital marketing might be a much more effective way of basically tapping into a global market all in one go. And the reason that I say this is because I know whenever I'm traveling, for example, even though the adverts are a little bit different, if I'm being targeted for car purchases, I notice that basically the same cars are being advertised to me. So whenever, for example, the new Honda Civic comes out and I know there's an ad in Canada, if I go to, let's say, Italy, I'm pretty much guaranteed another ad there too. So yeah, it's very, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent answer that I feel kind of ties up a lot of the benefits of digital advertising, digital marketing in this specific context, right? As it kind of benefits directly BMW. So I think that's a great point to end on. So next we have some fairly unpopular ones. So for public relations, let me pick one in the interest of time. So is Thomas here? Thomas Verdier?
Yes, I am here.
Hey, so you chose public relations.
Yeah,
so why?
Public relations because I feel since BMW is coming out with a new electric vehicle, they could promote it with different news articles on its different special qualities that diversify themselves from other electrical vehicles.
Cool. Yeah, I think that that's a good point. And basically frame those differences as kind of a broader advancements in the electric car industry, right?
Yes.
So they're like, yeah, basically neutrally saying that they're kind of on the cutting edge, and which helps position them relative to, say, Tesla, right? Which, is definitely the incumbent brand. So they're not the newest thing anymore. Yeah, that's a great point. Awesome. So that's public relations. And I don't see any hands up, any other hands up for that. Oh, wait, Tiago?
Hello. I chose public relations as well because I thought BMW is more like a high-end, luxurious brand. And I thought if they focus on events that people their target buyers, those people with let's say more money attend, and they can target those people without actually pushing ads to their faces. So I felt this would be a good strategy to reach those type of public.
That's an interesting point. So yeah, potentially their target market doesn't like being kind of aggressively advertised to. Yeah. Yeah, Alexandra?
I also chose public relations, but I was thinking more of in a news article, maybe CP24 or some sort of news outlet could, maybe not CP24, but some sort of news outlet could cover it in an article, just because it would reach more mature readers. So people that may be able to, I'm not saying people that read the news can afford cars, but in general, I feel like it would reach a more mature audience, and it would be very informative, and it would outline maybe the fact that it's electric and all these other features about it, instead of maybe a general advertising on TV where it would be more about looks. And because usually car commercials nowadays are all about looks or some other purpose other than the actual features of the car. Meanwhile, if you did a news article, it could be very informative and draw buyers in.
Awesome. So you get kind of an opportunity to be a bit more long form about the information, which might be appreciated by your target customers. Very good. Let's end off with Puya.
Yeah, so I chose public relations because like when I looked up the product, I looked up BMW iX and there were a lot of articles on this car. There were a lot of reviews. I think I saw one about like Top Gear did something on it, another one with like Auto Trader. There were also a lot of YouTube videos reviewing the product and going over it. I think that would all go into public relations.
Nice. So you kind of see that they're already basically heavily relying on this. So it feels like kind of the right, it feels like maybe a conscious choice, right?
Yeah, I think it's like a major part of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I feel like by going the public relations route, you can definitely position it as kind of like a technical advancement and kind of show off all these things in kind of this neutral way, but that makes it seem sort of cutting edge.
For sure.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Puya. So yeah, we're running low on time, but we only have 2 people who did personal selling. So are there any, let's see, personal selling? We have Abdullah and Ayush. I see Ayush is here.
Yeah, so I kind of chose this, and I may like think it's otherwise now, but I kind of chose this to start off with because I feel like given the fierce competition in the industry, and as well as when people looking to purchase like a car, it's kind of a long-term purchase, and you kind of want to keep it for a long time. So if personally I was trying to purchase a car, I would love to hear from a person like in person and like selling to me like the advantages, the disadvantages, so I could actually hear like in person and kind of get like their side of things. And so personal selling kind of like builds a more long-term connection with the customers, and that could possibly benefit BMW when it releases other models maybe, and kind of going this route as opposed to maybe advertising, which all other companies are doing, kind of investing more into personal selling to like get like an edge with the competition.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, the first point of contact for a lot of people is going to be their salesperson in the BMW dealership, right? Like they'll go to the dealership to see the car and test drive it out, right? So at that moment, they're going to be engaged with a salesperson, and kind of training that salesperson to sort of be better at the personal selling with this new product is definitely like a very valid and probably a super helpful way to achieve their marketing objectives. All right, so the last thing was sales promotion. So let's see. Do we have, is Parnika here? Yeah, actually that's best if you type it in because I gotta wrap up the rest of the lecture. So yeah, Parnika, type it in. I'm gonna move on, but then we'll come back to your answer at the very end. Okay. So fortunately, there's not much left in the lecture because determining a budget, I can't really, the budget will be the budget wherever you are. The textbook is very ad hoc. We want to know kind of whether our advertising is working or not when we're determining our budget, right? So we're going to take as given that our advertising will give us a particular return. And here, so I'm going to take a little bit extra of your time. I apologize. If you have to leave, no worries. It'll be recorded still and you can access it later. But here we'll have online advertising budgets can kind of be spent in 3 different ways. You have cost per mil. That's paying a dollar amount per 1,000 ad views. The mil is from 1,000, right? Like from the French. So pay a dollar amount per 1,000 ad views. So you're paying for people to just see the ad. Cost per like, you can pay, say Facebook. I only want to pay if someone actually clicks like on the ad, right? It's not enough for them to see it. They need to also click it and like it. And every time someone clicks like, then I'll pay you Facebook, right, for showing them that ad. You can also choose to pay cost per click, which is I'm only going to pay you Facebook for showing this ad if someone actually clicks on it and goes to my website, right? These are ranked in order of increasing expense, right? If I'm paying for you to actually click on it, that's a committed buyer, or at least more committed than someone who's just seen it. So cost per click will typically be more expensive. You can spend your budget in different ways depending on your objective. Here's some kind of general guidelines. But in general, what you want to do is buy an ad if the customer value to the firm from that ad, so your extra lift minus the cost of buying the ad, is positive, right? Benefits need to exceed costs. Simple. So here I have a simple worked example with Nivea. And I'll let you guys kind of look through it yourselves because it's kind of fully worked here. And it should be clear. But if you do have questions about it, feel free to come to the office hours. So yeah, buying ads, I've mentioned you can do it, Facebook, Google, any social media platform will give you the opportunities to buy ads. And they'll basically optimize the display of those ads for you. And then at the end, you want to collect feedback on your whole marketing communication process. Did it work? Right? Did it improve the key performance indicators that you care about? All right, so that's it for the lecture. Next week, it's going to be this case study and review. I'm going to give you this kind of case study to look over before we do the lecture. That case study will be about an hour. The review is going to be about an hour. The quiz next week, I'm going to ask you, based on the first letter of your last name, to submit a multiple choice question for a particular section of the course, for a particular lecture of the course, right? So if your the first letter of your last name is like A to D, you'll be submitting for lecture 2 and so on, right? And I think that's kind of a good way for you to review some of the concepts, and then we can all go through the best questions together. And, if some of the questions are really good, they might show up on the final, right? The report for your group project, that'll be due December 10th. Group projects are going to be presented November 24th and December 1st. I'm going to have a sign up on Quarkus for people who want to present on the 24th. Actually, no sign up on Quarkus. I'll make an announcement. If you want to present on the 24th, email me. Don't email me if you want to present on the 1st, right? Only email me if you want to present on the 24th. I'll post an announcement. And then, yeah, we have due dates and exams. All right, so that's it for the lecture. Sorry for keeping you guys for a few extra minutes, but I'll see you guys next week, and I'll just answer the questions I see in chat before I go. So Jan asks, the firm advertising is the one paying the platform? Yes, that's correct. So the firm is paying Facebook or Instagram or whoever for cost per mil or cost per like, etc. And then, yeah, Parnika, your answer is too long. I'm not going to go through it, but I see you. I see you've written it. You're good. Time limit is 12 minutes for the presentation. Yeah, Tarek?
Professor, for the case study next week, do we have to do anything before the class?
No, just there'll be a video you have to watch. It'll be about 8 minutes, and then you can go over some of the case details, but just watching the video. So yeah, that'll be it.
So like the case review thing, we'll know which article would do like next class. So there's nothing to worry about until next class.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.